Joe, you got to give us just a brief, encapsulation of your 3 weeks away from Santan Valley, where it is, by the way, a beautiful day here, cool still, which we're enjoying. So tell us a little bit what happened.
Lots of wildlife, very exciting things. We opened our new radio station out there, did a lot of hiking, got in touch with our personal selves.
Oh, how nice. Your id and your ego and all that.
Right,
Yeah.
all that.
Oh,
so
very meditative.
It was great. It was a good...
And you were big on lizards and
relaxation.
reptiles, so there was lots of those.
Lots of amazing wildlife. Amazing.
Yes, and we're not talking about the Mai Tais after midnight.
And lots of wildlife there, too.
Oh, there was. Okay, so good for you. So we're coming you direct from Santan Valley, the Carrera compound out here on beautiful Ivar Road, and it is a gorgeous day in Santan Valley. Only about 85 degrees. And
good guess, 85.4.
Well, it's that lizard thing with me too. I can change temperature with the outside. So I know you're all thinking it's going to get hot soon, and so our guest has just put in a new pool. We'll have to plug the pool company if they did a good job here today. And my reach barrier. We've talked about reach barrier on the show. And I have done my garage, and I can tell you what a difference it is because I have an east-facing garage. When the sun comes up, having that barrier in the inside has kept my garage really cool. And then we can tell already from our reach barrier protection up on the inside the attic that the air conditioner runs much less already, even though it hasn't been really hot yet this year. So I'm telling you, folks, reachbarrier.com. You should take a look at it. It's an inexpensive way to get yourself protection from the sun and the heat we know will be showing up here very shortly in Santan Valley, Arizona. So a couple things going on around the county. We had a very exciting meeting yesterday at the Board of Supervisors. The board is trying to figure out what they're going to do with this contract with the ICE jail, and the contract basically says you take the prisoners, we'll reimburse you. But it turns out that when they signed the contract, nobody ran the math, and the county is losing $50,000 a week on this contract. So they're talking about, we're trying to negotiate, but it's with the Marshal Service, and they're not answering. And so the board is saying, we're just going to cancel the contract. Well, at the meeting yesterday, Sheriff Paul Babu brought everybody, or almost everybody, from the jail, and all complained about, hey, we're going to lose 200 jobs, and these are voters, and it got pretty hot, pretty contentious with the board members, and they were just saying, hey, we can't afford to spend $50,000 a week on this and take a loss when we're trying to get the county fiscally solvent, which is going to be very difficult in the next budget go-around, which starts July 1st. So if you missed it, a couple of the newspapers covered it. Tri-Valley Central covered it, and I think it's in the Maricopa Monitor. You can get more of the details there. So at the national level, we have this the so-called no big deal or who cares when Benghazi. We lost an ambassador and 3 other people, and apparently the White House, in the midst of a campaign, decided that they were just going to let those people die. That's what the evidence looks like now, and they betrayed our people, the people who work for us. In that situation, and they got killed because of it when we had military people ready standing by to fly in and save those folks. And to say, well, we didn't know how long this altercation was going to last, well, you can only say that in hindsight. So it's complete nonsense that you wouldn't at least send people at the time the engagement was going on and try to extract your people. So Hillary Clinton has a lot to answer for, which not only includes Whitewater and everything else, but includes this latest screw-up. And if she thinks she's going to be president in 2016, this will be the campaign this will be the campaign commercial all the time. Remember Benghazi. So another interesting thing this week, Joe, and living here in Santan Valley, the gun crime rate has gone down dramatically in the last 10 years in the United States. With the high-profile shootings we've had, which are very bad, and we're going to talk a little bit with our guest today about guns on campus and so forth. You would assume, based on the media attention, that gun violence has gone up in this country, but actually has gone down dramatically. And I think it's 2 things: we're putting people away who are serial offenders, and we're not letting them back out again. And we have a very polite society here in Arizona because you never know who's carrying a gun before you get too nasty with them. So people just back off, I think, and they know that homeowners are armed, so they can't break into their houses, and it all works together. So that's been good things. So if you want to join us today, 480-745-1033 is our number, and you can call in. Our guest today is Jill Broussard, who's our county superintendent of schools. She was elected at the same time I was in November of 2013. Jill joined our... There we go. Congratulations. Jill came to Santan Valley in 2003, and she started to work at EduPrise Charter School as a kindergarten teacher, and she has a couple of children who are still attending EduPrise, as I understand it, and her husband joined the military, so after her stint as a teacher, she decided she needed to stay home and be a full-time mom. And then last spring, at some point, she decided the call to public service was tugging on her heartstrings, and she decided to become our county superintendent, and she won the race handily, I might add, against the first beat. She crushed her primary opponent like a bug on a windshield. And then she went on to win the general election with about 57% of the vote. So welcome, Jill. Glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So our last guest, before Joe took his interregnum, was Amy Fuller, and we had a nice discussion about what was going on post and Butte and so forth. And I think a lot of people, because the way Arizona does their educational structure, don't really understand why we have a county superintendent and how that all fits together with the local schools and so forth. So if you wouldn't mind, you could just give our audience a little précis on how that all fits together, and I'd like to be educated myself. So Jill, welcome.
Okay, hi, thanks. Arizona does do it a little differently. We have a county superintendent written into our state constitution, and their duties are to serve the school districts within the county. So we provide professional development to the teachers and fiscal services to the schools. So we don't have any say in how the schools spend the money, but we help and make sure that they're not going over their budget.
Okay. Now, when you say that you do provide the teacher education or growth, is that just the public schools? Does that include any school in the county?
That is any school in the county, although we really don't have too many charter schools or private schools in our consortium or taking advantage of it, but I am reaching out to them, especially because I was an employee of a charter school, and I didn't even know that was available to us. But a lot of times the charter schools will provide that on their own. Okay, so they self-fund it as opposed to looking to the county or the state. Mm-hmm. So the first duty you're talking about is just, okay, let's make sure our teachers are up to speed, meeting their requirements. Do you help them with like recertification and continuing ed? Is that kind of in your... Yeah, we check into that, and then we also do the elections for the school boards.
Really? Mm-hmm. That falls under, that's very interesting. It doesn't fall under the county elections and Virginia Ross, our friend over there. Okay. Yeah. So how does that work? If I'm in Apache Junction, for instance, and I want to run for the school board, I have to go through, I apply, or let's say put in my name to the county superintendent. Is that how that works?
Mm-hmm. But we also fill vacancies. So
appoint vacancies, or are these elected vacancies?
I would appoint someone to the vacancy in between the election years.
Okay.
So let's say we have someone quits a school board for one reason or another, and then we have to post that vacancy, and we work on gathering applicants for that. They fill out the application from our website, and we review them, and I interview them, and I really try to speak with the superintendents and the school board that is already existing, because I don't know everybody in every community. This is a county the size of Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah. So I make sure that
they have a fit culturally. Is that what you're like?
Yeah.
Within the community?
A lot of times there's some people that are just troublemakers. They're not in it for the right reasons. We want people with, and the school board already, for the most part, knows who those people are, because they've shown up.
They've come to the meetings and they're, yeah.
Yeah. So I make sure I check with them and kind of get their take on things and take that into account, and then I make the appointment.
Well, and speaking of that, we had kind of I think you were just talking about this morning, kind of a sad occasion with CAC. The community college is also under your, is it under your jurisdiction, or how do you fit in with the community college?
Yeah, about I would fill that vacancy for the school board.
Let's talk about the person who passed away. Do you remember? Oh, okay. There, I know it's.
I was out of town, so I didn't know anything about it until you told me today.
Okay. Well, for people who don't know, we have. I think it's a 5-member community college board of people, and the woman who's 63, and I didn't know her, but passed away over the weekend. She was the chair of the board, and so that'll be a vacancy that's coming due right in the middle of their budget discussions, and in the middle of that, and which has been an interesting experience because they're looking for a 38% increase in their funding for CAC this time around, and now with the loss of this person, you'll probably get a few phone calls of people who want you to put somebody on there who may have a different view of this increase, depending on being that we're more on the conservative Republican side of the aisle. Should be an interesting dynamic, so I suppose you'll be ready for those calls. But anyway, I guess it's a tragic loss for the district, but it creates a turmoil there because they are trying to get more funding for the new campus over here by Post and Butte, which is pretty nice, and a few other things. But 38% is a pretty big jump.
Yeah, it is. But there's been a lot of cuts. There really has been, and we're all holding on. It's tough to offer contracts to teachers that are due to go out for next year, and we don't have our state funding. We don't have the numbers.
Okay.
So we're kind of anticipating getting more cuts. So we're trying to figure out how to make that. How do we offer these contracts out
without any numbers in front of you?
Without any numbers.
Is that how it normally works? So is that you have to wait till the legislature passes a budget before you can actually go into offer contracts and so forth?
No, you can offer the contracts. And usually in the contract it'll say dependent upon
funding from the state at this level or something like that. All right. Well, I think it's the 21st, just to circle back to the CAC board or the budget proposal. I think there's a public hearing at 2 o'clock. I'm not sure where it is. It's probably at the campus in Coolidge. And maybe some of our listeners who are interested in this could call and let us know. But it's a public hearing on this increase. If you're listening and call us here at 480-745-1033, and we'll find out. Maybe you can help us out with where the hearing is. I know it's the 21st at 2 o'clock, but I think it's they call it the Signal Butte campus. Signal, where they have the astronomy thing, down Coolidge.
Right, that's out there at the...
Your mic is off.
Thank you.
Yes.
Out there at the Superstition
Some of
campus
us are radio
of CAC.
professionals.
Right, thanks.
Yes, we had a caller, though. So
we did. We had a call from Marvin in Coolidge, and we just actually finished it, 11:30 CAC Live today.
Okay.
So it's fresh on people's mind. He wants to know, what is Mrs. Broussard's take on the CAC tax increase?
Okay. Have you had a chance to look at it, Jill, or no?
No, I haven't had a chance to look at it, and I'd be curious to see what the funding, maybe they are wanting to start some new programs. We have a lot of new things coming with technology that need funding, and depending on cutting funding in other areas and that, it's tough to say without having a look at it, but and it is tough because I'm fiscally conservative, and so I would want to take a look at that and see what's been cut, if they could cut anything anywhere, but chances are it's for new
programs. Well, I think part of what I read was, and maybe again, listeners, if you have a chance,
and, they have all those new campuses.
Yeah, they have to.
They have to pay the instructors and
right. If you're going to staff them, I think the state does the capital improvement, puts the money in the buildings and so forth to actually build them up, but then the CAC locally has to carry the carrying costs on a month-to-month basis, year-to-year basis. So, but that's going to be a hot topic, and the reason it's so hot is because our property taxes in the county are second highest in the state. And most people ask me, why is that? And I tell them, well, because only 25% of the property in Pinal County is even taxable. And of that 25%, 41% fully is agriculture, which gets a huge exemption from property taxes. So we have a base of about 14% of the households, because we don't have a lot of business here, that are actually paying the whole county bill, which is about $336 million. Now, in that regard, Jill, does the $336 million that the county gets for their general fund, is any of the money from that go to the superintendent's budget?
My budget?
Yes.
Yeah, we get our funding through the county, and then we also do an accommodation district, and we're unable to tax for that.
You have no taxing authority.
So the accommodation district serves a portion of, it used to be all farmers. It would just, the area would swell with migrant workers, and that we had to have a school for those kids. They weren't in any sort of a a district, so we created the accommodation district, and we get the funding from the state, but then we don't get any tax revenue for the rest of our funding, so we have to approach the Board of Supervisors.
So you put together a budget to present to Fritz Behring and the board earlier on this year.
Yep.
And where are you in the process with your budget?
We've asked them for the same amount that we
stay
asked.
Flat, right?
Yep.
Yeah, same thing I did.
I didn't want to do any increases, but knowing that our state funding is probably going to decrease. So it looks like about this point we're probably going to be taking about a $250,000 cut this year to our funding.
Approximately, what's your annual budget?
Oh my goodness.
Well,
For that school?
No, just for the county superintendent.
Oh, I don't even know.
Okay.
Because we're split up into so many different.
I was just and I know that you get a lot of funding sources, a lot of things going on, and so it isn't really done the same way as the county does it as far as
school finance, education finance is done. It's a completely different process, and we start at the end and work backwards, and it is just because we get a set amount of dollars, but with our grants that come in and then they expire, and it's
a rolling process then.
It's difficult. I'm so thankful that I have such a amazingly talented group of ladies that work with the numbers in my office, and because it's too much for one person to have a good, a very good handle of what's going on, and so I know exactly where to turn to get all those numbers when I need them.
Sure. Well, so as I understand, you do going back to your basic duties. One is teacher education and credentialism, sort of re-getting their certifications. Get that recertification. Okay, thank you. You don't do initial certifications though. That's through ASU, through the state. Is that state colleges do all the ADE? Which,
I'm sorry.
That's
Arizona
okay.
Department of Education.
So I would go to Arizona State, for instance.
Which is where I graduated from.
Oh, go Sun Devils? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Sure. I'm a Buckeyes fan because I'm from Ohio, but
well, and they win
Sun
too.
Devils, Sun Devils are good.
They're on the way up.
Yeah,
Sun Devils are on the way
up.
They are. So you went and you got your education degree in early education, early childhood education, or
K8.
K8. Okay. So as a student, I would go get that, and then when I'm done, I would go get my credential.
Well, you have to take about an 8-hour test, and I know that they're changing that, but it's been a while since I've taken mine.
Sure.
But, it can be pretty intense, and so once we find out we've passed that, then we can take those results to Arizona Department of Education and present it to them. They give you your certification, and I think it's a 1 year, and then when that one is getting ready to expire, you renew and you get a 3-year provisional. Right now you need additional endorsements for secondary English immersion.
Okay.
And
special ed, I suppose, that sort of thing, if you're in that area.
If you're, for whatever area you're in, but every teacher. And then even 3rd grade and younger have to get another special endorsement for early childhood. And you have to have your fingerprint clearance card.
So you take that to a school district when you apply for a job, and they let's say they hire you, and then 3 years elapse, and your provisional is now up for renewal. So instead of going back to ASU, I come to the county board. We're in the local county I'm in to get the recertification.
Professional development hours.
Okay,
you would get through us.
And how many hours approximately do you have to get in 3 years? Any idea?
I think I'm probably way off on it. 60, 80.
Something like that.
It could be way more than that, though.
They keep changing it, too. I know that.
Everything, it changes a lot.
Yeah. Well, I understand. So then I get the continuing ed, I get the hours through the county school superintendent's
and
system.
through colleges. And
you can get them other places.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're not
it's
restricted.
Not just us, but we provide it. And that's what's so exciting is I get a hand in making our teachers in Pinal County better.
Okay.
And I don't think money is a key to good education. I think good teachers are the key to
But that's not what the
education.
teachers union would tell us.
Okay.
Right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, and I understand why.
They say that, the teachers union say, well, higher salaries are going to keep, better quality of teacher, but I don't necessarily. I think you need a heart for this. You need a calling to be a teacher. Yeah. Trust me, in the kindergarten classroom, you need a heart and a calling to be in there.
All right, 480-745-1033. If you have a calling for our guest, Jill Broussard, who's the superintendent of schools here in Pinal County, we'd welcome your calls at 480-745-1033. So, okay, so you provide the service. That's one of your main focuses of your office, is making sure that people can get their continuing ed.
And for any teachers that are sitting on the computer while they should be working right now, I'll let them know. I'll do a little plug for this. We have a sizzling summer.
Sizzling summer. Here we
program.
go.
I know. No drinks with umbrellas or anything included. But
okay.
We have just a wide array of courses, from digital storytelling and iPad in the classroom and Common Core math development. I know that's the buzzword.
Yes, it is.
So they need to get online and take a look at our sizzling summer, and we also have our PD program up online for next year.
I would say PD is probably professional development.
You got it.
Okay. Now, is there a fee to take these classes? I have to come out of pocket for them?
Well, if your school's part of the consortium, it's a much lower rate.
$5, 15, something
15.
Nominal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so then you log in, create an account, that sort of thing, and then you can go ahead and get your continuing education.
Super easy.
Right. But you still got to do the work either way, right?
Yeah, but it's fun because you're there and you're learning things that you can actually apply in your classroom. Well,
which would be a welcome thing. One of the biggest problems I think we have in education is not the teachers. This is my personal philosophy. Everybody out there, this has nothing.
Let's hear it.
Yes, is the moms. I don't think mothers demand excellence anymore from their kids, and you don't have to comment on that. I brought it up with Dr. Fuller, and you have a thought on it.
I do.
All right.
I think that parents are working hard, or they're just lazy. But I know that from being a teacher that somehow the responsibility of teaching kids respect and responsibility has fallen on the schools.
Oh, yeah. The schools have become the social...
and then we catch the backlash from the parents when their kids don't learn it. And, it's just backwards.
Well, I think parents have abrogated all these things because they get to thinking that the government's going to do everything for them. Mm-hmm. And in the schools where they interact, they think, well, you should teach my kid respect and manners, and that's ridiculous. That should be in the home. And discipline and hard work starts at the house, where the parents say, let me see your homework, and because I remember when I was a young man, of course it wasn't that long ago, but I guess it feels like it, that if you got in trouble at school, it was doubly worse. The worst thing you could have was a note home from the teacher.
How is the student supposed to know that education, respect, hard work is important if mom and dad don't make it a priority at home?
They don't. They won't, because if the parents don't push it. Joe, we have a caller.
We do. We've got Rebecca on the line here that has a question for Ms. Broussard.
All right. Let's go ahead, Rebecca, with your question.
Hi. My question is, as superintendent of Pinal County, how are you planning to improve the education of our students?
Well,
it's a pretty big question.
That is a big question.
Rebecca, did you have a specific area in mind, as like math and reading, or are you just in general what the philosophical part of it?
Well, the whole aspect, is something where so many parents are looking at different options for their children and really wanting to not just test scores, but really make sure that our students are getting an all-around education, and especially with budget cuts, that's something that's disappearing.
All right. Well, Rebecca, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. Jill, you've got the microphone.
Well, I think it just goes back to our professional development. When it comes to my office, what I can do personally with my office is our professional development and provide that support. Even with our professional development team, they will go out into the classrooms and coach the teachers while they're teaching. So by educating the teachers on Common Core and the new practices, the things that we can add to the classroom that are going to make life easier or more intriguing. Our world is changing. Students are using iPads for education. My sons are in an iPad class, and the amount of apps that are available on there for education, and it's amazing. My second grader can put together a PowerPoint presentation for me, and the teachers need to be up to date on that, and I think that that's something that we're really working on in Pinal County, is to be on the edge there.
Trying to be at the cutting edge. Now, the philosophy of education that we're talking about, Terrell Bell wrote the book in 1984. You were too young to remember. A Nation at Risk.
Kindergarten, by the way.
Kindergarten, there you go. And he talked about all these issues in 1984. And here we are. We've gone through several iterations. With under Bush, we had the No Child Left Behind, and now we have under the Obama administration. What's the latest fad? Something for excellence. I can't remember.
Race to the top.
Race to the top. Yes, and why can't we get it right? I mean, I think it goes back to the parents. Everybody want to call and criticize me, go ahead. But I think it comes there. But why is it that we're always trying to reinvent education? And I understand technology changes. So we deliver education differently. But learning and the purpose of learning doesn't change. It's the ability to be able to think and process information. So, but why do we keep trying to get it differently with it seems like every presidency now?
Well, we always want to be better. We're always striving for excellence. If you look at schools in Europe, and the reason I know about this is because I have exchange students, and a lot of times they do these aptitude testing, and then they gear them into the program that their aptitude test points towards. And then they start that education in that field. We don't do a whole lot of technical trade school.
And why is that? Do you think it's because we have a bias towards everybody should go to college?
Yeah, I think right now.
And do you think if you could wave your magic wand, would you change that and give people a chance to go a different path and say we need diesel mechanics and we need plumbers and we need people who can do that sort of thing?
We have machinists here that are getting ready to retire, and we don't have anyone to take their place. We need that education for them, and I really think that the businesses should and would step up to help provide that with instructors, because it's only going to benefit them.
All right. We're on with Jill Broussard, who's the superintendent of schools here in Pinal County. We're going to take another question from a caller, and then we'll go to a break after Jill's answer. We're at 480-745-1033 if you want to get into the conversation after the break. Jill, what's our caller asking?
And remember, guys, there's no reason to get agitated or combative on the phone with me. I just take messages and put them through, and if you wanted to go live on the air, well, as long as you're going to be nice, that's a great thing. Marianne from Pinal says, I have 3 children in the Coolidge school system, and I'm appalled at the violence that happens on a daily basis. Now my 11-year-old uses and takes pills just to fit in.
What kind of pills is she talking about?
I didn't ask about what kind of pills.
Not like illegal pills or prescription?
She was inferring they were some kind of drug pills, but I didn't get into that.
Okay, well.
She just wanted to comment on that.
Well, there's been some turmoil at Coolidge High School, so we might as well address it, and then we'll take a break. So, Jill, go ahead, tell us.
Sure, we were just talking about that today,
and how it fits into your office, because you don't hire and fire in Coolidge directly. So
no, but I do work with and help support the superintendent in Coolidge. Now, they had an interim superintendent who was great, Pat Jimenez, and the board just hired Sherry Wallace, who was the superintendent at Santa Cruz, not Santa Cruz County, but Santa Cruz School District. It's just a high school district.
And for our listeners who don't know where that is, where's Santa Cruz?
Over by Toltec.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
If you know where Toltec is.
I don't, but I figure that our audience does better than I do. So.
And Sherry Wallace's dad actually was a long-term superintendent for Coolidge. So
legacy.
She's really excited, and she knows that I live in Santan Valley, so she's already reached out to me a couple times to figure out the demographic in Santan Valley, because she knows Coolidge fairly well and wants to know what she can bring to the table for the Santan Valley. It's a little different between Coolidge and Santan Valley, I'd say. And as far as violence and that's an awful situation to be in, but I just urge everybody to be present, especially parents. Be present and there for your children. Get involved with anything with the school, whether that's the parent-teacher organization or go to the board meetings. But speak to your own children. But I'm appalled by that too. I mean, I don't know what you could even say about that. It's a terrible situation.
As a county superintendent, you don't really have the power to reach down to that
No.
district directly and make any
hopefully
changes.
they'll get some stability over there in Coolidge.
You know, interestingly enough, as a parent out here with children in both districts right now, how is it that Florence and Coolidge, they're so intertwined, and Coolidge is just turned to be sounding so putrid? I mean, I hate to say that, but, you know, it's like, it's very strange. I mean, is Florence that high? The leadership is that high above the Coolidge district at this point? Or
that'd be my impression, but let's take a break, and we'll come back and continue our discussion of schools here in Pinal County with Superintendent Joe Broussard. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you ready to start taking control of your future and maximize your earning potential? Central Arizona College has smaller class sizes and personalized attention to help you compete in today's tough job market. CAC now serves Santan Valley and Queen Creek. The CAC Santan Center is located in the shops at Copper Basin on Hunt Highway, behind Barrow's Pizza. Stop in and see how taking classes at CAC costs a fraction of a state university, and your credits can transfer. So, if you want to earn real money, you need to learn real skills at Central Arizona College. Enroll in classes today by calling 480-677-7825 or visit www.centralaz.edu or call 480-677-7825 or visit www.centralaz.edu. Central Arizona College, your college, your way.
You're locked in. Locked in.
Love it. Today's best music.
The station with the best music.
Was that a commercial that we were just listening to, the music? Or
No, that was Hall & Oates.
I know it was Hall & Oates. I thought maybe
That was She's Gone.
Oh,
Just
so
a
you
song.
just threw a little musical interlude into here. People will think that we went off
Keep
the
it
air.
fresh.
Oh, keep it fresh.
They can still see you.
Okay, well, great. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Douglas Wolf. I'm County Assessor and host of Pinal Power Players every Thursday at 1 o'clock, despite the fact that our promos say we're on at Wednesday at 11. Just ignore those, and we'll have those
fixed by next week, right?
Exactly. We always are going to do that next week. Anyway, we're here with Jill Broussard, who's a superintendent of schools, and we were talking about, and I want to just circle back to, so it's clear in the audience's mind, one thing is continuing education is what you do. Mm-hmm. You fill school board vacancies with appointees until an election can be held, and then you also oversee the elections. Is that what I understood? And what else is kind of that's your top level duties as the superintendent?
Fiscal management for the counties.
For the county.
I'm sorry, for the county.
For the county.
Yes, the county schools.
Okay.
So,
If
like
I'm
I said before,
Okay.
I have no say in how the schools spend their money.
Okay.
Or if they ask for an override. But we just make sure that they don't overspend the budget that they've been granted.
So probably the Constitution drafters thought, well, we should have a civilian elected who can just now. What happens? What's the penalty? Let's say I'm in Casa Grande and I said, heck, I'm going to heck with Jill Broussard. I'm going to spend an extra $1 million. What's the penalty?
Well, they don't have an extra $1 million. So what we do is we monitor it throughout the school year, so we catch it before there's a major issue. But if somebody spent money that's not there,
Yes.
well, I would imagine we'd have some serious legal.
So there is a little bit of a hammer there.
Yeah.
And they do listen to you, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
They rely on you to your staff.
Yeah,
to,
we work with their business managers, and they're constantly calling our accountants, and then they come in and they pick up their checks, and my name's signed on those checks.
So that's you don't have to sign the check if you don't want to. Then you say, well, we can't give it to you. You're over budget.
That's for the employees.
Oh, okay. So it's not for their regular day to day.
Finding it does go through, but it's kind of complicated.
Yeah, it sure is. I wonder why they made it so convoluted. But I mean, I understand they try to inject civilian authority into a government process, much like my office. I'm an elected, and I really, my budget, though, however, is controlled by the Board of Supervisors. So I can't overspend it because the finance people will come over and say, well, you can't buy it.
And the budget for my fiscal services department only covers salaries. There's nothing else there.
Okay. Nothing capital improvements or that sort of things. 480-745-1033 if you'd like to join us. We had a couple calls earlier that was actually quite excellent, and Joe will take your call off the air if you don't want to go on the air, and he will write it down and post it, pose it to Jill and I. So financial management, continuing education, appointing school board members, that's probably the top three?
Yeah.
So day to day, that's what you deal with.
Yeah, we're involved with legislative things. Just I need to make sure that the superintendents are aware of all these things. I communicate with them, and then Common Core preparation.
Well, I promised my listeners when I sent out my email on my Facebook page today, we would get to Common Core. When talking to Dr. Fuller, who's the head of the Florence School District, she said that the Common Core curricula, is that right, or is it curriculum? Curriculum has already been implemented. This is a done deal. And her take was that the only thing that's still left to be decided was the testing methodology.
The park assessment, yeah.
Let's talk about parking.
PARCC.
PARCC, okay.
The park assessment, gosh, I'll try to do this without giving you too much of my opinion on it.
But that's why you're here.
Well, so we had the AIMS, right?
Right.
We already do AIMS.
Which is Arizona something metric.
This would take place of AIMS.
Okay.
And it would correlate with our new standards, which I'm sure Dr. Fuller had already explained that.
A little bit.
We already have state standards. We need to have state standards. It's just like any industry standard.
It's a baseline for every student.
Yes.
Okay.
This is what they need to know to move on. So the state standards right now kind of just hit the tip of all of these different areas, and the new Common Core are going to go more in depth and teach more applied information. So it's kind of like the difference between memorizing your math facts and learning how to do a word problem.
No, but so then what's the big, and my conservative friends have a big pushback against this. What's their angst about? I know Glenn Beckett's out there waving the flag and getting the bull all charged up, but where do you see the pushback coming from, what would be the conservative right?
Here is what my thought on that stance is. A lot of times, and this is not everyone, but they're not educated on what's the difference between curriculum and standards and the Park assessment.
Okay.
So here we go. Curriculum is your books, your textbooks that you use, and the things that go along with your standards or your Common Core. That would be our Common Core.
Which is always a fight over content of textbooks, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the conservatives been waging that fight forever. 1 page on George Washington and 15 pages on I don't know.
Don't offend anybody. Be careful.
Well, Kathy Bodine, the Weather Underground. They get more pages in American history than Founding Father. But anyway, that's been a fight.
So Common Core, I really like the concept of Common Core. Now I'm not in the classroom, so I'm not getting every detail of everything that needs to be addressed in there. But I really think that the main concern is with Park, because it's another standardized test passed down from the government saying what we are allowed to test for. Now, the government says...
Now, is it the feds or state?
Feds.
Okay.
So the federal government...
now I know where the problem is.
So the federal government will say, oh, well, you can teach whatever you want, but we're only going to test on this, and you can't add anything to the test or omit anything from the test.
And now, who generated this testing process? Was it the Department of Education or Agenda 21, the UN, as the conservatives like to say?
Word has it, it stems from some very well-known computer company gurus.
Oh.
And it's all done online. We need major broadband. Every student needs a computer. If you do it with a laptop, you got to have your headphones and your microphone and a keyboard.
So is this Apple or Microsoft or Google? Who supposedly is behind all this? All of the above?
Well, I think it's I think that it was Bill Gates that I heard that about.
Because he's doing his education push, and he's failed miserably so far, and maybe this is his last big hurrah.
Well, it's pretty nice when you own a computer company and every child needs a computer.
Yeah, well, and Apple tried to do this early on in Steve Jobs' career. That's what he's going to own the education space, which he did for quite a long time. But Gates is already worth $50 billion, so financially I don't think it's his big thing. But for Microsoft, it may be a big thing as the continuing company.
Here's the big problem: we have schools that don't even have internet access
in Pinole County.
Yeah, that they need to be prepared.
Let's back up the truck.
Pretty remote. Let's say in the state.
Okay.
So I'm down at Havasu Bay Falls.
Okay.
This weekend, and there's a little Indian village down there, and gosh, I probably wouldn't be too surprised to find out they didn't have Wi-Fi or broadband.
It is very remote.
Mm-hmm.
But under the schools that you administer in the county, everybody has internet access, right?
I think we're doing pretty good about getting up to date on that, but it costs a lot of money to be prepared for this. And the general feeling around the superintendent table is that there's no way we're going to be ready. And that's not the students aren't going to be ready.
We don't have the infrastructure.
We can't. Yeah, exactly.
So there is a funding component to this, or a financial component that has to go along with implementing the standards, which people don't like. I know generally speaking, most conservatives don't like top-down directives from the federal government saying you will, because they've always felt like, okay, this is one of the areas that should be locally controlled as much as we can. Whether that's good or bad, that's always been the feeling among the school boards and even the parents.
And they don't want watered down education.
Yeah, and are they teaching to the lowest common denominator as opposed to trying to go for excellence and so forth? So that's probably where you're right. That's where the crux of it is, as far as it's not necessarily the content so much. Which now, since it's already in process, have the teachers you interact with and the superintendents and the other faculty, are they on board with it? They think it's a pretty good system as far as what they've seen so far?
Yeah, but it's a pretty big job to switch statewide.
Sure, from Ames to this, right?
There's lots of curriculum mapping, and we talking about new textbooks and new programs, and it's a really big job. It's caused a lot of stress. Some schools think they're ready for Park and ready for Common Core, and they may be far off.
Okay, so when is Park supposedly come into reality?
Next fall.
Next fall. So people will be sitting for tests. Students will be sitting for tests as an incoming.
Not next fall. The end of next year. Sorry.
End of next year. So spring of 2014.
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll sit for a test at the spring of 2014 or some sort of process. The numbers that they generate from those, that will go to what happens with what they find out from that testing.
From the Park?
From the Park next spring. What are they going to do once they get that data?
Well, now, first of all, they say that our test scores are going to drop dramatically because it's such a difficult test and so different than
Has anybody seen the test? Has anybody at your level seen the test?
I have not taken a look at the test. I've heard rumors about the tests and about questions that call, the 9/11 terrorist freedom fighters.
Oh, my God.
But I have
that's
not
where the
seen
conservatives are going to push back.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it, and it causes my eyebrows to raise.
Sure.
But we'll look at that. Right now with the Ames, that you grade the schools get graded on it. They get that A through F. But I don't. We're always trying to take the data to steer us in the correct direction for
process improvement, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just like any business.
Sure. And it's back to the seating control, seemingly, to unelected bureaucrats, Arnie Duncan and the crew over the Department of Education. And again, I understand you're saying, well, we have these different iterations of the educational process in order to improve. But from my standpoint, I look at the dropout rate, I look at the average test scores, I look where we rank in the world. We've done all this stuff and spent quite a bit of money, maybe not as much as we could have, but it's quite a bit. I know our pupils are pretty well funded compared to the rest of the world, and we still seem to be tracking downward versus some of the other, China, Korea.
That's so funny that you said that. I was speaking to an exchange student this weekend who is from Thailand, I think, and he was saying he didn't ever own a toy. He got books. He had a whole room full of books, and he's away at a school. What do you call it? Boarding school.
Boarding school, sure.
And
so he doesn't even see his parents.
He's up at 6:30 in the morning, and they go to school until 5:30, and then they have to study.
Well, we couldn't have that for our kids.
And it's Monday through Saturday.
Wow.
And over spring break, I'm sorry, not spring break, summer break, Mom drops him off at the library at the beginning of the day and picks him up at the end of the day.
Yes, but who gives him the free breakfast and the free lunch while he's at the library? Do they feed him? Who knows, huh?
Okay, so I didn't ask those questions,
I understand.
but I'm just saying.
Well, in our country, that'd be the first question that people would, they got to be fed.
If we valued education, I'm not saying we need to go to an extreme like that, but...
Is that an extreme, though? I mean, because they're getting ahead of us.
They are getting ahead of us, and yeah, it's an extreme, and I do believe in moderation in most things, but education's important. We need to show, the community needs to show, parents need to show, anyone needs to show that education is important. We need to focus on it, and that's at home. That's at school, that's in the workplace. We all need to continue education, no matter what career we're in.
It's true. I was at a dinner Tuesday night. Dr. Ben Carson spoke, and for the conservatives out there, you know who he is. He was at the National Prayer Breakfast and kind of gave the what for to the president on a whole range of issues, and one of them was education. And he says, well, we turn out 40,000 engineers a year in this country. The Chinese turn out 400,000. Well, engineers are what builds your future technologically. I mean, they're the people on the cutting edge that are going to move you forward with products and so forth. And it's so. I guess I'm coming back to my argument, which is, or not my argument, my observation that we've done all this stuff, and yet we still seem to be trailing. And so would you say the different iterations are an attempt, Jill, to try to catch up, or we're trying to find the right metric?
Yeah, we're trying to find the right formula.
Okay.
But the challenge is every student is different, and it's tough because you want that individuality, which I would say some of the other countries lack.
Right. Thailand, for instance, it's a factory, basically. We're going to put in so many inputs and it's going to get this much output. Right.
And the pressure on those students, you have no idea how many of them are committing suicide because they can't handle the pressure.
Sure.
But, you know,
where do you reach the happy medium
exactly.
where can you compete worldwide and not have as many hours of schools as the kid in China?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the tough part. 480-745-1033. We're on with Joe Broussard, who's our county superintendent of schools. We got about 7 or 8 minutes left in the program if you want to get in and ask a question about your school or ideas on Common Core or anything that's going on. I think I really have a great understanding now of what's going on with Common Core because I really did not know why this was such a controversial thing. Let's talk a little bit about, as far as you can tell, what's coming out of the legislature. You said the budgeting was going to be hopefully be the same or maybe a little bit less for next year. But are there some bills besides the Common Core controversy that you'd like to comment on or like to have some observations?
Well, from my understanding, Park's been taken off the table with that name, but it's just going to come back from what I understand. I was looking through our priority bill list for the superintendent sent me, and really nothing that interesting, to be honest. It's talking about teacher employment contracts and electronic signatures. I'm not sure that the average person is really that interested in that.
So mechanics more than philosophy?
Yeah, there's a 200-day school calendar with some increased funding. Some people are having a issue with that, but even with the increased funding, it's actually not enough to cover the 200, but the teachers are willing to do it. The school districts are willing to do it.
That's about it, huh?
Yeah.
So it really comes down to budget, and then this. What you think they're going to rename Park? Is that what they're talking?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're just going to bring it back with a different name because the average American voter. I mean, maybe the average American non-voter doesn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and the activists, and you should be aware of this if you're a conservative out there, and you think there's something wrong with this approach, then you should be just watching what's going on. I know there's a few people active in Pinal County Republican politics who actually go to the Capitol every day and sit in on this, so they know what's going on, and I don't have a problem.
I think just be cautious. If it smells a little fishy, just stay away from it.
Well, and do they give the funding with this? Are the feds saying, okay, if you do the testing and you do the Common Core in the park, we'll give you the funds to do this? Oh, so the states
they're not giving us the money for the infrastructure that we need. That we get all sorts of mandates and no funding to go along with it, and we appreciate the ideas for these mandates, but then we like I've always said, it's not about the money. We can find wasteful spending, we can bring it back on track, but things do cost money. You're opening new campuses for CAC.
Gas has gone up and all that.
Yeah,
Well, and cost of living has gone up here in the county. There's no doubt about it.
Transportation budget for schools has been frozen for 10 years.
How's that possible?
That's the way it's been.
Yeah, but then nobody's going anywhere because if it's in 10 years. Well, when we are theoretically we're in a depression still. I mean, we're growing a little bit as a country, but we really haven't gone to. The current administration has not been able to kick off job creation in this country, and that's a tragedy for all of us. I want people working. I want people in Pinal County to have jobs, and that's good for everybody. It's good for education, and it all feeds into itself. But 50 years ago, 75 years ago, we were a lot less affluent country, and seems like we had better education in the sense because, again, the parents were more, I think, on point. And you can say, well, they weren't both working at the same time and all that. Yes, that's true.
That's okay. I work. Yeah. I work, and my husband works, and my kids know education's important.
Well, and I can tell you, folks out there, if you turn off the TV, number one, so that isn't on during the week, and use it as a reward system for good behavior and good grades, you'll see a dramatic improvement in the grades. There's no question about that.
That only works for one of my kids, but the video games...
Oh, then the video games is the other one.
Works for the other one.
Yeah, because those are highly addictive by design. I know people in the video game industry, and they know exactly how to make those things so that you just want to keep playing more and more and more. And actually playing games is a lot more fun than doing schoolwork for a lot of people.
Hey, I'll tell you what. Sometimes I like to sit down and play words with friends rather than, staring at the budget paperwork.
Sure. But you've already passed the peak where you've gone to college and you've gotten your education. But when you're in, a seventh grader has to do the work in order to get ahead. We wanted to talk about something personal. Here at Santan Valley, I've talked about reach barrier to cool down your house. Jill has just put in a new pool in her backyard in Santan, and you're having an interesting experience. You said the pool guy you have is pretty good, though.
Oh, man. The pool guy's awesome. And
what's his name of his company?
So the name of the company is Sunkissed Pools.
Sunkissed, okay.
And his name is Brian. I don't know his last name, but he's
Brian Sunkissed, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm sure that's it.
Yeah.
And he was out there every day. Well, he wasn't, but the workers were out there every day. They were respectful and clean, and they got the pool done when they said they were going to get it done.
That's
having
right
a
there.
Different experience with the landscaper, but don't want to use his name on the air because he still has my money, and I still need him to do the job.
What was that other guy's name again? Sunkissed Pools with what? What was his name?
Brian at Sunkissed Pools. So is he? Do you think he's sunkissedpools.com by any chance? Is it website? We want to give our local businesses a little pump up here.
A family guy, and we're always looking for local guys.
Sure. Now
always owned a business.
Everyone wants to call in and talk about pools here, I suppose. That's
don't want to talk about it. See, guys, I said education's important. You don't call in about the pools.
So we're going to water down the conversation a little bit here. We have a question, Joe? All right. We're going to have our last question before we close up for the hour. So who's on the line, Joe?
This would be Jerry on the line here.
Jerry, go ahead with your question for Joe Broussard.
Hey, I heard that Sandra Day O'Connor was in your office. What was that about?
Okay, thank you for the question, Jerry. Yes, she visited your offices. What was that? What happened?
Sandra Day O'Connor came out because she has a program that she's started, and it's called iCivics. So it's got lots of different games where students can role play being the president, United Nations.
Kind of like we do here.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And the kids have a blast with it, and it's a complete curriculum, and it's free.
Wow.
So we have no money in schools, and check it out. Teachers can get online, and they can get training through it,
and then get the whatever the worksheets and everything.
Yeah. So Sandra Day O'Connor she's very happy with what Pinal County is doing with that. We created a promotional video for iCivics, and we used Pinal County students, teachers, superintendents, and schools. And then she came out and spoke to just our superintendents. I mean, I was so ecstatic to have Justice
the Supreme
O'Connor.
Court Justice.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Just so neat.
Yeah, she's got a tremendous amount of integrity too. Being a judge and then actually retiring from the court.
She sat down. She took questions from our superintendents and from our students.
Well, Joe Broussard, the hour has flown away here. I want to thank you for being my guest. I know that you were a little bit nervous this morning about this, but it went well. You'll do it again, I hope.
We'll see.
Okay, well, we didn't take too many.
No, it was great. I had fun. I'm just giving you a rough time.
All right, we didn't get too many, and you can see by the cheerful and insouciant attitude that Jill presents even here on the air that she's having a great time and working with the kids and does a great job. I've heard only great things about your tenure so far, so congratulations to you on that. And to everybody, next week, Pinal Power Players will be on the air, 1 o'clock on Thursday when we redo our promos. I'm Douglas Wolf, your county assessor and host of Pinal Power Players. Thank you. God bless America, and God bless Pinal County. Listen, watch, chat, and interact. Become part of the Pinal Power Players Show every Wednesday, 11 a.m. to noon. Join me, your host, Douglas Wolf, right here on KQCK Radio.